Welcome to Integrative Lawyers of the World, where we showcase lawyers who contribute to the healing of the world. Hi, I'm Carrie Raleigh, and our guest this episode is Rajan Chettiar of Singapore. Rajan's life philosophy is to help and support people to make the world a better place for all, and his legal career reflects this. He has many accomplishments and accolades, including starting his legal career at one of the oldest and most prestigious law firms in Singapore before he started his own firm that specializes in family and personal law matters. He has a master's in counseling. He is a mediator. He's one of the first collaborative law professionals in Singapore, and he handled the first collaborative divorce case in Singapore. He's a director on the board of directors for the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals. He is a prolific writer, writing a monthly column for the Singapore Law Society. He's a volunteer with a keen interest in helping the disabled, families, and children. And he's an integrative lawyer. Thank you for joining us today. You can go to our website at www.integrativelaw.com to check out other episodes and to support our mission of showcasing lawyers who are contributing to the healing of the world. Hi, Rajan. Thank you so much for joining us today. I was thinking a nice place to start would be your philosophy. You include your life philosophy to help and support people in the world. How did you come about in getting that philosophy? Is there an inspiration for it?
I think it's just a story. I remember when I was 15 years old, I got up one day and I told myself I have to go out and help people, and I wanted to do volunteer work. And that's how it all started. It just one day I just got up and I just felt there was a great need to help and support people. My parents were very surprised, and they were like, "Don't you have better things to do?" When I was done with school, in the high school here, and I wanted to become a social worker. So I told my parents, I'm just going to go and do social studies, social sciences, and then be a social worker. And being very Asian parents, and I'm the eldest child to them, they were quite shocked. And they were like, "You mean do volunteer work?" I said, "No, to do paid work." And they were like, how about being a lawyer, and being a lawyer, and you can use law to support and help people. And that's how it all started. It was just a push by my father, that's away from social work to law. And since then, I think it started, and the journey didn't end at all. Yeah.
So it started at 15. That is a young age, and for a lot of teenagers, I don't know, many teenagers have different focus at that point in their life. So to get up one day and say, I want to go help and volunteer others. Do you remember what you volunteered?
I didn't go on to volunteer till I was 25 years old. So for 10 years, I just had this passion growing in me, and I didn't do anything. And this is way back in the 80s in Singapore, where volunteer work wasn't very popular like it's now. So at 25, I started to volunteer, and I went to help in a disabled befriending program, and that's how I started at 25 years old, and now at 57, it just goes on.
But to have that passion or have that pool, for volunteerism, you said you had it at 15, but you didn't start until you were 25, but you stayed true to that. And, and it was just, okay, I'm going to live this out. And you stayed true to that pull and that desire. You went from that. And I do agree with your parents when they said that law can be a way to help people, which is actually one of the core foundations of integrative lawyers, is that we believe that lawyers can contribute to the healing of society. Sure, I know you started with an old, prestigious law firm in Singapore. That has the image to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when someone says the oldest and most prestigious law firm, I imagine like you walk into a high-rise building, very rich decorations, maybe a little stuffy and a little bit, working toward the high class. But is that what that firm was like?
Yeah, I think in the US, they call it the big law.
Yeah.
So it was a big law. Like all lawyers then, I started off wanting to be in a big law firm, do very good work. Yeah, so I spent the first year being a corporate lawyer. And I didn't like it. It was just very cold and hard, and I was not meeting people. And then I went on to become a litigation law lawyer, and I was serving all the big clients. That in a large firm, you serve the big clients. And every year in the 6 years there, I keep on thinking to myself, I need to go out and work with people and families. I need to be a family law lawyer. And that was what I did in 2003 when I left the firm. I set up a law firm, and I was very clear that I was going to do family law, and I wanted to do family law my way. And that is to try and help people to create peaceful divorces. This is 2003. In Singapore, there was no talk about that. We were doing high litigation in family cases. But I was very clear, and that's how it all started. And I frankly didn't think that the legal climate would change. I just told myself, I'll just do it my way and we'll see how it goes. And that's how it started. And lo and behold, in 2014, the courts started talking about the things I was speaking about in 2003.
Wow.
And then they start going on this whole spiel about, non-adversarial work. They were promoting mediation. And then they were also, then speaking about, trying to reach settlements without fighting out in court. And that slowly changed. And now we have a climate where the focus is out of court settlements, which ties in very well with collaborative law.
You had mentioned working in, the big law firm, and, I'm going back to your desire to serve others and to help others and to practice law, as you said, in your own way. But there was a time when you couldn't, you're still growing as a lawyer. So what was it like during that time period where you're working at the firm and you're doing your best, but yet it doesn't feel like it's aligned with your inner pull toward helping others?
It was really quite a low period in my life. I was totally not happy. I was just working, and a while later, the big money and all the perks didn't really make sense. Yeah, and I was just thinking to myself, I need to go out and do something. I had a dream, and my dream was to be an entrepreneur, to run my own business. And I thought about it for the last 2 years in that law firm. And then finally in 2002, I said to myself, okay, enough is enough. I'm just going to quit. So I went to tell my boss that I'm going to resign. And he was like, why do you want to do that? You are in the sixth year of practice, and you're in one of the best law firms in Singapore. And why do you want to do that? So I said, no, I really need to go and do something else. Yeah. And at that point of time, I wasn't very clear. I just told myself I needed to quit. I needed to go and find myself and then think through what I want to do. And that's what I did. I left without a job. I had no plans then. I only had one plan that was very, very clear, was to go and backpack in North India, which I did.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then, and I told myself, I'm sure I'll find my way around. And towards the end of the trip, I was in a car, and something just told me, you've always wanted to help people. You've always loved family law. You've always loved family law. So why don't you just go and start a law firm and practice family law? And it was just the moment. I don't know which part of North India I was in, but just the moment it all clicked. I said, okay, fine. I'll come back home and start doing that. And that's how the firm was born in 2003. And to me, I mean, the big bucks, the perks, the lifestyle of lawyers, which is the same around the world, I think, wasn't so important because I've done all that. Like I tell my friends, I've done the wining and dining and traveling and all the very high life that I've led, and I just wanted to be true to myself. And I know that the person that I really am is the one it's about looking out for the world, helping people, and doing what I can do. Yeah, to support people. Yeah, and I think that was the main call in my life.
I ask, several lawyers this when we do these interviews, and there seems to be a common theme of when you get to a point that it's not right, or you're not that it's not right or wrong, but it's not right for you. And there is a common need of, I need to pause. I need to just stop what I'm doing. I need to pause. And in that pause, give yourself time to find yourself again, or reconnect with yourself. So we see lawyers doing that. I did that myself in 2000. I was having this, my law practice, and life kind of just wasn't go like, also I looked up, I'm like, I'm not living the life that I want to live. I had to do a huge pause. So I did kind of my own pause and reset journey is what I called it. And it started out in India as well.
Oh,
So I
wow.
wanted to go travel and volunteer around the world. And the first stop, and I also did a search of like, where are the most like sacred places on the world? And India came up and I'm like, all right. And I also was raised Catholic, so Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity was well known in the Catholic community and in the world over, I guess. But so it was a dream of mine to go volunteer at her missionaries in Calcutta. So that was one of my starting places. And it was,
Harry, I did that too.
did you?
Exactly that in 1996 when I was about to become a lawyer.
Mm,
Done my exams and there was this transition period, and I am a great fan of Mother Teresa. I read her books, and I followed her teachings and all that. And if there's somebody that's in my life, I think that's her really.
yeah.
So I did that, and again, it was one of those things I did when my parents was totally kind of against it. They say it's not safe, it's not clean,
Mm.
all that, and I said no, I gotta do it.
What were
And
your impressions of the Missionaries of Charity? Like, where did you work, and how did you think of your? What did you think of your experience?
when in those days, and I don't know whether now they do
Yeah.
emails, but in those days they don't do emails. So we had to write letters to them, and then they write back to you. So I went with a friend, and I was thinking, why do they only want me to do half a day? I'm there for 3 weeks. I should do a whole day.
Yeah.
And when I went there, I realized how heartbreaking the work is,
Mm.
the volunteer work is. So and half a day is just about what you can do, I think, because you need the rest of the half a day to recover.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I served in home where they brought in the elderly.
Okay.
I can't remember the name now, but they brought in the elderly, they housed them and took care of them, and the elderly will die there as well. So
Okay.
we have to clean after them, do the laundry and all that. And
Hmm.
he never believed in washing machines and stuff like that. Everything was
Yes.
manual. Yeah, so that was really eye opening, and I was
Mm.
like, wow. And she was alive then, and she came back home from the hospital. She was already towards the end of uh,
Okay.
her life, I think. And I remember Christmas Eve 1996, where we were there in a house, and she was there speaking to us, and she talked about how important family is.
Wow.
And I was like, 1996 Christmas Eve is very meaningful to me. I think about it every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds
And
like
then
it's,
the year after she passed on.
yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was one of those pivotal moments in your life where you have like a moment of clarity that helps you, take the next step on the path that unfolds for you. That's nice. In part of your journey, you found more clarity as to your mission, and that was to help families and enter into family law. So, how did you go about doing that?
And when I started the firm, I was probably the only one talking and doing these kind of things, and I started doing it. It was very hard. There was no, structure. There was no rules, but I just went out and doing my thing. And I did quite a lot of work, and even when I was in court doing the litigation, I was very mindful of the way it should be done.
Mm,
I didn't want to go into the kind of high conflict kind of litigation, or add more stress to my fellow lawyers and my clients. And I think people like that, and the business just grew
mm,
like that over the years. The firm is 20 years this year, and right now we're doing more and more of collaborative work. Um, you know, and people come to us knowing that that's what we do.
yeah.
It's been a long journey. I didn't give it up. I was clear that this is the only way I want to do it, and I told myself this is the right way. I honestly didn't think I would see that turning into a trend in Singapore. So in 2014, that of us when it turned into a trend, I was just so mind blown. I said, oh my God, I honestly thought I'm just going to plant seeds and in me then, grow, when I'm no longer around. But to realize that so quickly, things have taken shape, and what I had, and my dream and my vision came into fruition, and then it was really about what do I do next.
You had mentioned, and this was around 2003 when you started, and you wanted to practice law in your way. What do you mean by that? Describe your way.
I wanted to help people to resolve their disputes without high conflict litigation. I wanted them to find solutions to work on settlements. I didn't know how, and in 2003, I picked up family law from scratch, and I didn't know how, but I was very clear that was how it should be done. So I helped to, talk, to help my clients, to tell them, hey, look here, we should try and find a way to resolve it. Let's talk with the spouses. Let's do negotiation. And that's how I started with negotiations. And then in 2005, I went on to pick up my skills in mediation. And at that point of time in Singapore, in 2005, we didn't have family mediation at all.
Oh.
Yeah, we were only doing civil mediation. And I was like, hey, but we should have family mediation. And then they were saying, no one will do that. So I went on to learn mediation skills in 2005. In 2007, I came across UK law firm website, and they were talking about this thing called a collaborative divorce. And I read about it, and I was like, hey, this is me, I can do this. I think that's the beginning of my collaborative journey, unconsciously.
Why do you think there was resistance to mediation in family law cases in Singapore?
Our mediation history only started in 1997 in Singapore. So 2005 is not very far. So we finally got into family mediation in 2014 as well. Yeah, so a lot of things took place in 2014.
Mm-hmm. So it was making progress.
It was making progress. So now we have family mediation culture. So there's a lot going in the field, but we also had court mediation. So the family justice courts did in-house mediation. It was the judge mediators, and that started in 2005. So I was very fortunate to sit and watch all this, be part of it, and do my small part, and yet to see it grow from 2003 right up to now.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's all, there's little things is all towards a larger picture, and that's to help support families, help them to rebuild, their lives in the future, with peace in mind, be a peacemaker.
J. Kim Wright has her book, Lawyers as Peacemakers. And, a lot of people, a lot of lay people or others don't think of lawyers as peacemakers, but that's what we do in a large extent. To a large extent of our practices, we're resolving conflicts. We are peacemakers. And what better place to do that is in the families, where it affects people in their homes closest to them. And your entrepreneurial spirit, I love how all of this combines your pull to help others and your entrepreneurial spirit, because you really did start something new and part of innovating the way to practice family law in Singapore. What is collaborative law, and what drew you to it?
To me, collaborative practice or collaborative law is just one sentence. I think it's a very structured manner of negotiating settlements for families and for children, so that they can, work towards a peaceful divorce and rebuild their life. And that's what it means to me, in a simple way, structured negotiation, because that's what it's all about, I think.
Yeah.
What drew me to it? I mean, I guess it's a no-brainer in the sense that, being a peacemaker, somebody who wanted to help people to resolve issues, then to realize that I was building up tools. In 2005, I was building up a tool of mediation. And then slowly, as it goes around, I was really, then I went on to learn a bit of negotiations. So it was just building up tools. So, when I read about it in that website, I was just so fascinated. I was thinking, this is exactly what I can do, and I know I'll be very good at it. Yeah.
A lot of, when I was trained in collaborative law and speaking with other collaborative lawyers, we actually interviewed Stu Webb for Series 1. One of his main points is it's a paradigm shift in the way that we think of legal cases or the family case, and that shift is thinking about how can we serve this family with unconditional love and not destroy each other, but to restore the peace. And there are different modules and ways that we can do that. With the IACP, and one of their collaborative tenets is that lawyers agree to not represent the families in subsequent litigation. Is that how it's also practiced in Singapore too?
Yes, correct. We really follow the tenets of collaborative practice as how it's done in North America.
As being one of the first ones in Singapore, did you ever feel like like in this sea of lawyers, in the sea of courts, I'm all alone? How did you go about finding like-minded professionals? Because in collaborative law, you need to have the other side be collaborative too. So you need to have other lawyers who are familiar with the practice.
Firstly, being the odd one out was something I'm quite used to. So it's not something new from 2003. In 2013, when I realized, when I met a trainer who trains collaborative lawyers, and she was training in Melbourne in Australia. And I couldn't wait for the training to come to Singapore. By then, I've already waited 6 years. Yeah, so I say I can't wait further. I really must go and do it. So I grabbed along a friend who was also very into it, and who's also from Singapore. So both of us went up to Melbourne to get trained.
Oh, good.
And when we came back a few months later, when we did the first case, I did it with her. I acted for the husband and she acted for the wife. Yeah, so it was not that lonely in the sense that she was there as well, and she's a very dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how it all started. And then thereafter we had trainings in Singapore. We have a large pool of collaborative professionals now in Singapore.
Did you hold some trainings on collaborative law yourself? Or I know you're also a prolific writer. Did you write articles for the Law Society to discuss and promote collaborative law in Singapore?
I did write about it in the Law Gazette. And I also was also a key person in trying to bring the training to Singapore and to facilitate some of the trainings. I don't train myself yet, but I was just very involved in bringing the training in and getting more and more people to attend the training, so that people came to me to find out more about it, and then they went for the training. Yeah.
Going back to all the things that you do, I don't know, how do you manage doing all the things that you do?
I think I'm very, very blessed that I have a wife who is very supportive of whatever I do, wherever I want to go and whatever I want to do. She said that just go and do it. So that helps.
That does help.
And I've got a good team at work, so they keep the show going day in, day out, so that I can go and do all this work. But this sort of fits me to do what I do well. Yeah, so it's really food for the soul, I think. Yeah, to wake up every day and to do this work and to feel so passionate about it, I think that's a gift from God.
We are taking a brief break from this conversation to ask for your financial support. With each episode, we hope you can see how lawyers and peacemakers like you are contributing to the healing of the world. It takes many kinds of resources for the integrative law movement to keep going and affecting change. Your monetary donation can help us continue this important work by supporting the activities and the members of this community. Each contribution goes to promote the stability and accessibility of the movement and to support basic expenses like our Mighty Network group, web hosting, social media and event management, and this Integrative Lawyers of the World podcast. Because we like to give people choices, we have ongoing monthly options to match your budget, or you can make a one-time donation. Thanks to our non-profit corporate sponsor, the Renaissance Law Society, US supporters are able to make tax-deductible donations. Supporters from other countries, please check your local tax laws. For ways to support the integrative law movement and our world-changing work, go to our website at www.integrativelaw.com and click on Support the Movement tab at the top of the page. Another great way to support us is to rate us 5 stars and comment, like, follow or subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google, YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. These ratings and interactions help us get seen and heard by even more people to make an even stronger impact. Thank you for your support and spending time with us today. Enjoy the rest of this conversation.
I want to share with you how I felt when I did and when I successfully finished the first case in Singapore.
Please do.
That's something that is always in my mind, I think, day in, day out. I felt so overjoyed. I've never been so happy as a lawyer as I was on that day. I was telling myself, this is just exactly what lawyering should be about. To feel such great joy that you have done something good and help this family and the children. Yeah. So it was a very high feeling, a high feeling that, one may get from alcohol and stuff like that, but I just got from a case. And it was just so, I just blown out of my mind, and I told myself, okay, I'm doing the right thing, and this is the work that I should be doing. So I was even more kind of convinced that this is what I should be doing. But that high feeling, that is what 2030 now is 10 years later. I can still remember that day. I was thinking this is what lawyering should be about, really.
Did the family who went through that collaborative process with you, how did they feel about the process, or how did they react to it?
The collaborative cases can be emotional in the sense that at the last meeting can be very emotional. So my male client sat back and said, I'm very, very sad. And I think I knew what he meant. He says, I'm going to be alone. I'm going to grow old alone. And I'm not going to have my family with me, in the sense that my wife is no longer there, and my children, I have to share them with my wife. And he really thought he was very, very sad. And I think he was emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, the wife was emotional too. I mean, they have already settled, but it's just the emotions that just runs through. She just looked, and then she just, she had no words. So there was only sadness in that settlement, in the final day, final meeting, in the midst of all that joy that, I was feeling. There was sadness, and I do appreciate the sadness. We create peace, we help families to move on, to forge a new chapter in life, but it's not always a very kind of a joyous day to start a new chapter. People do take time.
I think that's one of the values of collaborative law and collaborative trained practitioners is honoring the feelings. Of course, it's going to be sad, and it's okay for you to be sad and to be in a space where it's safe to acknowledge, I'm sad right now, I think is part of the healing process, as opposed to covering up the sadness with vengeance or anger. That's going to keep people stuck, I think, in moving forward. So creating a space of, yes, I understand it's sad, I honor your sadness, and so that they can feel it and move forward. I think it's hard, it's sad, but it's part of the healing process.
Right after that, the next 2 years, he will call me up once a year to tell me how he's doing and how the children are doing. His relationship with his two daughters, I believe, were really very good, and he was happy.
Nice.
And I think that's what the whole collaborative process is about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it takes time, but people do find their own life. Yeah.
So now you're appointed to the board of directors for IACP, International Academy of Collaborative Professionals, and you're the second Asian on the board of directors. Again, and a breaking. You've been the first or the second of many throughout your career, and that continues on. Tell me a little bit about IACP and why you are not only a member, but wanted to become one of the on their board of directors.
I mean, the moment I came back from Melbourne, the training, I remember it was a Sunday that I came back home, and I just signed up to be a member. I was very, very clear that if I am going to continue this journey, or rather start the journey, then I need to be part of the setup. Yeah, so I went to sign up without knowing very much about it, but I knew that was the way to grow with them. And 2013, I went for the first forum, that they usually have in October, and that was in San Antonio. I went in there and knew nobody, just went in there as one person, and the kind of love, support, friendship that was given to me from the moment I registered till the time I left. And I told myself, this is the community that I want to be in, and these are the people that I want to be with. So I signed up for the committees. I serve in them, and something told me that I need to do something more for collaborative practice, and so as the years went by, then I became a member of the board. This is my fifth year, and so I'm into my second term, second year, and I finish next year. And I think it's been one of the most greatest thing I've done, because I've learned so much from all my friends, in IACP, the board of directors. I've learned so much about diversity, and I come from Singapore, where we are so diverse. We have a multiracial society.
Can you share a lesson, like a lesson that you learned on diversity?
I realized how important it was to be broad-minded and to be open and able to kind of accept whatever that comes with being inclusive and to embrace diversity. Because in Singapore, I'm Indian, so in Singapore we are minority race, and I know how that feels. Yeah, but I didn't really sort of have an appreciation of the importance of diversity. I mean, I live it here, and so it's not something new to me. So it's not, living in North America and not knowing a lot about it. So I live it here, but it never made sense. And sometimes I wonder why it's like that, and why am I a minority, and the way, sometimes subconsciously I feel that I'm being treated, and I didn't really put a thumb to it. But being able to realize, in diversity and being inclusive is so important, and that I do matter. Even if I'm a minority, I do matter, and I do have a voice. I think the work on diversity made me realize that a lot more, and to come to terms with that. So it's good to learn, and then to sort of to practice it. Yeah, and being open to whatever comes. You see, it took us because here in Singapore we are a bit kind of close-minded, in the sense that we don't give a lot of rights to the gay population. So there was not very, very much kind of a recognition given to them, and and sex between both, between people of the same gender was criminalized for a very long time. It's only become non-criminal just about the last 1 or 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So being able to have an understanding about all these people, do matter. They are just as important as the rest of us are. So what, their views on gender is very different. So what? Yeah. So I think that kind of thing is very important in the world we live in.
Yeah.
Yes, I work with disabled people and stuff like that, but to able to embrace whoever and whatever, that's very difficult to do. And I think through the years, I've learned to do that much better.
In our news cycle, and even with like some of my friends in different groups, there's like such resistance to even, calling Black Lives Matter. Why don't you call it All Lives Matter? And then you get into the conflict over that, over the name, as opposed to the substance of, here's a whole group of people, of your fellow brothers and sisters on this earth, who have grown up feeling like they don't matter.
I want to give myself an example. Walking into a international board in IACP, where most of the board members are now North Americans. I'm the only Indian, the second Asian, just trying to find my way around, in a very new world, and and not knowing, whether my voice does matter, whether what I have to say does matter, does my cultural nuances of what I bring in from Asia, does it really matter? And that's what I think I saw throughout my journey in the board. And IACP is a place where I think we walk the talk, and and through the years, they kept on saying over and over again, every voice matters, every view matters. you come from Asia, your life experiences, how you do things in Asia matters. Please don't just go by what we do in North America. Tell us how you do in Asia.
Mm,
Yeah.
that is nice.
So through that, I was like, okay, my voice does matter. I'm generally quite a introvert. So being in that kind of group, you can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took me a while, for me to pick up that. And why is that important? Because that then goes into the rest of the parts of my life.
Mm.
Yeah, the way I speak to people, the way I write on social media posts, and the way, so things have all, things have changed. How I feel about myself, my own values, my emotions, how I relate to people, to family, to friends, and it's all changed.
Mm.
And that, I think, it's what's the real point about that? The real point about that is that everyone matters.
And that is very nice that your experience with IACP, how they manage and steer the direction of IACP. What is the vision for IACP moving forward?
Our vision is always the same. We want to be there to help families to rebuild themselves. It states very clearly in the statement, our mission statement, and that still holds true. Yeah, so we keep on doing that, and it's not just in North America, but it's to be worldwide. And truly now we can see, it being around the world in Asia. The ICP, I call it a movement, but it's really collaborative practice. Yeah. Yeah, it first came to Hong Kong, then to Singapore, and then now we have, managed to spread the word to countries like in Malaysia, Japan, and we are now trying to work towards India and Sri Lanka. So we want to share this. It's a good thing, and good things must be shared.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we're going to share this, and we're sharing this around the world. Yeah, so and that, I think, is very important, because it is not just meant for North America; it's meant for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we are doing. That's the most important work that we do, to bring it out to the world, so that we can create that for the families, and and create that kind of peace.
There's this, I think it's Lao Tzu, with the idea of, when there is love and healing in the individual, there is love and peace in the family. When there's love and peace and harmony in the family, it's in the community, and then in the community, in the world. When there's love and peace within the nations, then that's how we have world peace. And so, you're hitting with the collaborative law practice, it's creating that love and peace within the individual and the family, which is the core to world peace. So it's a huge, huge contribution to the healing of the world. In Singapore, what is the collaborative practice like now? Is there like a section or a committee to the bar? Are there more active members, or I guess your law society? Is there greater recognition of collaborative law, more practitioners doing collaborative law?
We have a practice group like they do around the world, and our practice group has got mostly lawyers, with a sprinkle of mental health professionals. We get a lot of support from the courts.
Oh, good.
In fact, this push came from the courts, back in 2013. Yeah, so we have a lot of support from the courts. And in our rules, it says that if it's a collaborative divorce, you'll go on a fast track.
Oh, that's good.
And we had that in 2014. Yeah. We had a lot of support from top down, and that, I think, that does help a lot. When you have a support of the government, it does help a lot. Yeah. So, and then now we are being able to practice that and help people, to reach settlements. It doesn't have to be collaborative in nature. I mean, as long as it's collaborative in nature, it doesn't have to be the collaborative practice. But if it's collaborative in nature, through the way the lawyers help and support, being mediation or being negotiation, but it's collaborative in nature. And I think a lot of work that we do is very collaborative in nature. In our firm, everything that we do is collaborative in nature, and I'm very blessed that my young lawyers too, they love doing it.
Oh, good. I was just going to ask, are they trained in collaborative law as well?
They're not trained in collaborative law, but I think they practice and live it.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
And they like that much better than litigation. And they're young lawyers.
How did you become aware of integrative law?
It was in the booth at the forum last year in Orlando.
Okay.
I think there was a booth that was run, and then there was information shared on integrative law. And you know me, right? I mean, anything that's really in line with what I feel and do, I'm very excited about it. Yeah, so I went to pick up the brochures and stuff like that, and I had checked with one of your colleagues there, and then she said, "You should be in our podcast." And I said, "Okay." Yeah. So when the email came, I was not surprised.
What does integrative law or being an integrative lawyer mean to you?
I'll just say what it means to me, because that may not be what you guys do. I think what it means to me is the role that lawyers play in this ecosystem of helping their clients who come to them, and I think it starts with the way of being, the way I am, the kind of support and help that I want to provide, and then working together with the client, and then looking at various tools to use to try and help the client to reach their common goal. I think that what the client wants has to be a goal that's shared by me as well. So if that's the case, then how do we reach that goal? And whatever tools that we use. I keep on telling clients, tools are not very important. The end goal is very important. So if you can integrate all of these together and help and support people and get them to where they want to go, I think to me that's what it means. It's about myself, my values, who I am, and also about the client, what he wants. And maybe what he wants may not be very clear, and they're usually not clear. Then you tell them, how about, what is important to you? What are your goals? What's your vision? And then to help them to work towards it. A lot of people who come to me and they want high conflict kind of litigation, when I share with them and talk to them and say, what do you really want? And people don't want to litigate. People don't want to spend 6 months, 9 months, a year, or 2 years in court. And people don't want to pay very high legal fees. They just want to get things done yesterday. They just want to move on their life quickly. So if so, then why are we, putting them into this kind of courtrooms and stuff like that? Yeah. So I think it's to integrate all of this together, and then to get them to where they want to go to. I think that, to me, that's what it's about. And I'm of course very, very keen to learn more and find out more, which I will.
I think you captured the spirit of the integrative law movement so nicely. Thank you for being part of Integrative Lawyers of the World and part of the integrative law community.
Thank you very much.